Brian
Okay.
Dooling is Director of Marketing and Enrollment for the Office of Catholic Schools for the Archdiocese of Atlanta, where he is working to raise awareness, differentiate, and build enrollment at all 18 of their incredible Catholic schools. He has served in this position for the past 2 years. Prior to this role, Dooling worked in a variety of sales and marketing roles with companies in the business-to-business market segment. He also served 9 years as an officer of the United States Army Reserve, from which he retired honorably as captain. In his spare time, Dooling is a founding member of St. Bridget, or is it Brigid?
St. Bridget.
I'm sorry, St. Bridget's Catholic Church, where he and his family are actively involved in several ministries. Dooling received a bachelor's in English from Boston College and an MBA from Harvard Business School. He and his wife, Lisa, have been married for 26 years, have 5 children, and reside in Johns Creek, Georgia. All right, Brian, welcome to the Diocese of Venice.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me, and thank you all for joining this morning. Hopefully this will prove to be worth your time. At least that's my hope. Would you like me to go ahead and start sharing my screen?
Go ahead, absolutely.
All right. Can you see that now? Can you guys see the title slide?
We just see you, Brian.
You just see me?
There should be an option to share screen. Sure, I'm not sharing the screen.
Let's see here.
Sure.
I click on share. Maybe
Oh, there we go.
Can you see it now?
You sure can.
All right. How's that?
I'm good.
Can you guys see okay?
I can see it.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about parent ambassador programs. I'm not sure if you have done these in your diocese or not, but this is something that I discovered kind of in doing research from the Archdiocese of Chicago. And so before we start, I'll give you a kind of a quick overview of the Archdiocese of Atlanta. We have 18 archdiocesan schools and then 6 independent Catholic schools that don't operate under the guidance of the Archdiocese, but have the name Catholic in them and are run by either a religious order or some other independent entity. We have 3 high schools and 15 elementary schools, K through 8. 10 of those are parish schools and 8 are regional schools. Right now we're at 83% of capacity. So 4 of our schools are full and all the others have opportunities to fill, which is where I come in. 75% of our schools are blue ribbon schools of excellence. So I think, from an academic standpoint, we're definitely, I think have some great schools. We provided $9.1 million in financial aid last year, which was 84% of the known need. We have a program called Great Scholarships, which allows people to redirect their state taxes towards scholarships. And so $2.2 million was provided in that to 708 students. And then we also have a program called Welcome Grants, where we offer these to schools right around the time of June to try and get them to encourage people to attend Catholic school. It is not dependent on any type of financial need, but it gives them $2,500 the first year and $1,500 the second year, just to get them to try it out. And we're hoping as a result of that they'll stay. We have a 100% graduation rate from high school, and our high school seniors receive $59 million in scholarships, exclusive of Hope. So from a return on investment standpoint, our high schools are really doing a great job in terms of getting scholarships for our students and, justifying sending your child to a Catholic school. Some of the things that we are doing from a marketing standpoint include the Parent Ambassador Program, which we're going to talk about here today. Grace Scholars and Welcome Grants, which I kind of briefly mentioned to you, social media and digital marketing, promoting our rigorous curriculum development and standards, really helping schools with regard to branding and telling their story, doing promotional videos, which has become much hotter lately, and then doing school website audits, which has also become much more important lately with things being virtual. I kind of consider the 18 schools that we have as franchises. So they're all kind of operating, independently, but I'm trying to help them from a facilitation standpoint in terms of both branding and getting their name out in the market. Some other steps we're taking include open house best practices, because that seems to be kind of a continuous shifting model with regard to open houses these days. Having a customer service mindset and really treating parents and students as their customers. Having positive testimonials on review websites, which we try and get people to do on a periodic basis. Doing preschool marketing initiatives to try and help build our pipeline. Doing some group advertising as a system to try and help reduce the cost. Doing detailed exit interviews for those students that choose to leave our school, trying to find out why and seeing if we can find any trends in those. And then also doing curb appeal programs, so just trying to make sure that our facilities look nice, doing things like planting flowers and things like that around the entrance so that people have a good first impression. This is an example as something that we did to place an ad in several local magazines to raise awareness as a system. We kind of placed our logos of all of our schools around the city of Atlanta where they're located, so people could kind of see where they're located and see which school is closest to them. And then just gave some promotional differentiators at the top. You can see the kind of the bullets, and then we listed each school and their phone number and website down below. And this is pretty economical for us to do. Some of those ads that you can place in some magazines like Parent Magazine and Atlanta School Guide and things like that, those can cost upwards of $5,000, which one individual school would have a tough time funding. But if we kind of band together as a system, each school pitches in $250, then we can kind of get the benefit of that and really help promote our schools and the awareness of Catholic education. Getting back to the main topic of our program today is parent ambassador programs. As I mentioned to you, this is something that I found being done in the Archdiocese of Chicago, and I think it's been done many other places across the country since then, but it started back in 2010 as a way to provide a structure to word-of-mouth marketing. And approximately 75 schools in the Archdiocese of Chicago have implemented a program, Parent Ambassador Program, with proven enrollment growth. And it is proven to help schools with their recruitment effort. And it helps organize parents of current students and prepares them to be part of the school's recruitment team. In summary, when I tell people what is a Parent Ambassador Program, it's essentially basically tellers of your story. So each school has their own story, and your parent ambassadors are the people that are out there promoting it and sharing it with others. So today's goal for all of you is to leave today's meeting with a better understanding of the Parent Ambassador Program and the possible tools available to help promote your wonderful school. And John, if you want to let me know if there's any questions along the way, you can feel free to interrupt at any time, and I'll try and answer those as we go if you like.
No problem. If anyone does have a question, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand icon, or you can type your question in the chat. So I'm monitoring those.
So basically, parent ambassadors can be your boots on the ground marketing team. And I'm sure with all of your schools as well, we have very tight budgets from a marketing perspective. So this is essentially a free program that really doesn't cost any money per se, but it is very helpful to have people out spreading the word from a grassroots campaign standpoint. So, all of our parents, we tell them you're all out in the community at soccer games, swim meets, grocery stores, talking to other parents about their experience at your school. So you're essentially getting those people to get out and promote your school in all the different ways that they're living their life out in the community with people that may not have heard of your school before. And while the personal touch, authentic nature of what you're saying is essential to the effectiveness of the program, it's even more important that everyone's telling the same story. So that's why it's important when you have a program like this that you kind of bring everyone in and you share with them common facts so that they can all be on the same page. These are some things that I like to try and promote with our schools to let them know some of the broad benefits of a Catholic education. So graduates of Catholic schools are notably different from Catholic children not in parochial schools in 5 important areas. That is their fidelity to Sunday Mass and a keener sense of prayer, maintaining pro-life attitudes, especially on the pivotal topic of abortion, the personal consideration of a religious vocation, continued support for the local church and community, both financially and through service projects for the balance of their adult lives, which is pretty impressive, and then increased civic engagement, more tolerance for diverse views, and a commitment to service as adults. So these are things that have been proven over time with regard to children attending Catholic school. And in essence, I think the kids that attend Catholic school are the future of our church. And so we're investing in our future when we can invest in having them get a Catholic education. So you might be asking, what makes a good parent ambassador? These are some things. It's not everything, but these are people that can speak to the experience at each point of entry at a school. So maybe kids are entering into the kindergarten level. They might be entering into middle school or in the high school level. So you want to find parents at different entry points so that they can basically relate to those people that are thinking about sending their child to Catholic school. I think it goes without saying that you want to have happy parents and those that are positive about the school. They may or may not already be involved, but you want to have people with positive attitudes. That's kind of a no-brainer, I would say. You want to have people connected with a neighborhood or specific group. So you want to kind of spread out and try and get people from different geographical areas or different groups within your community. You want them active outside of your community, outside of just the school community, so they can reach parents who do not already know about you. It's great if they have a strong work ethic, and if they're extroverted, of course, it means they're comfortable talking with other families. When you start thinking about putting together a parent ambassador program and who to recruit, it's good to maybe do like a interest survey to try and gauge interest of their talents and availability. This is something, our parents are heavily involved in many activities, probably outside of your school. So this is something that you want to get people involved in, doing things that they're either most passionate about or it is very easy for them to do because it's a natural talent. So you want to, gauge interest of parents in terms of what they want to do, what they have the time to do, and what is their passions and best skill sets, so you can use talents in the right area. These are some of the different roles and responsibilities of parent ambassadors, and doesn't have to be necessarily limited to this particular list here. It could be other things as well, but these are just some things that I put down of areas where people could get involved and help you out. Because also from a budget standpoint, I think you all have seen, many of our schools have a kind of an admissions / marketing / advancement department of one. So it's just one person, working in the school doing many different tasks. And so if you can get parents involved in different areas to kind of help out in their spare time, that takes some of the burden off the person back at the school so that they can, focus on what is most important, which is bringing children into the school and new families. So in advance of the meeting, you want to pick 2 to 3 of these that will work best for your school in terms of, ways that parents can get involved. So these are different things, as I mentioned. You have mass presence, outreach to other parents, ambassadors, religious education outreach, maybe tapping into their own personal contacts, helping out from an office hour standpoint, doing some community canvassing, doing some mentoring, local officials outreach, and then digital marketing support. So I'll kind of go through each of those briefly in the next several slides. So in terms of Mass presence, parent ambassadors can speak at Mass. They can set up info tables and man those tables, maybe after Mass. They can host events aimed at parish families with young kids. They can help submit bulletin entries, which is not real complicated, but does take up time. And so if someone could kind of champion that effort, that's something less that the admissions marketing person has to do back at the school. They could try and collect information from baptismal lists for outreach, and they can serve as liaison between school and church. So people, like with regard to parent ambassadors at various churches, many schools might draw many of their students from the same parish. As I mentioned before, we have 8 regional schools, and so those particular schools can draw from a multitude of parishes that serve them. And so it's good to have a champion or someone that has strong relationships at the parish with those particular parents. So if you can get parents that have strong relationships, they're going to have probably an easier time convincing the pastor to assist in these areas and help out to try and build your base with new families. So you can do outreach to other parishes as well, basically to introduce yourself and share some background information about your school. Ask the pastor if he knows any families with children who might be interested in Catholic education. Maybe request permission for parent ambassadors to speak at Masses or set up information tables after Mass. Now, where we have found some success here in Atlanta, what we found was a lot of our pastors did not want to have a different table for a different school every other week. And so what we've tried to do is set up what we call ministry fairs. And so when they have ministry fairs for all their ministries, we tap into that and also have Catholic schools participate in that. So it's just additional tables for the Catholic schools to have kind of a booth to promote their school at the ministry fair. And then a couple other options that we've tried are to have basically a school ministry fair where it's just dedicated to various schools in the area that they can set up maybe in the parish hall afterwards to promote all Catholic schools so people can walk around and learn different things about each school. So in terms of outreach to other parishes, you can appoint one parent as your local parish liaison and ask that parent to ensure coverage on a regular basis. And they can maybe consider hosting an open house for local pastors or stopping by their rectory with breakfast or lunch as an appreciation for their time. In terms of admission event ambassadors, parent ambassadors can help create materials. They can help promote the event, maybe follow up after the event. What we have found also in our diocese is that there's many parents that have talents with regard to graphic design and advertising that are current families of your school. And so asking them if they can help out to try and lend their talents, perhaps in designing some brochures and things of that nature to help your school. I'll show you a little later. We've tried to create what we call fast facts for many of our schools. So you can kind of get all the highlights of each school on one page in a nice graphically pleasing way. But before an event, like an open house or something like that, parent ambassadors can invite friends and family. They can canvass the neighborhood with posters. They can hand out flyers, post details to personal social media sites. So you also might have in your area things like neighborhood newsletters, neighbor next door, email blasts that go out. Maybe you could have parents promote those in terms of offering to send out bulletins and things of that nature to their respective neighborhoods. You can also do things like signs. If you have open houses, ask parents who are in well-traveled areas in neighborhoods to maybe put a sign in their front yard if they're allowed to try and promote that event. And so parent ambassadors, it doesn't take much work for them to do that, but that's something where they can help as well. In terms of religious education outreach, Parent ambassadors can call religious ed families to invite them to upcoming school parish events. They can host events specifically aimed at religious education families, or they can write testimonial letter to be used in religious education outreach. Personal contacts, these are basically kind of tapping into each person's personal networks to identify prospective students and their families to think about things like where do parents and children gather, who has children in grades K through 8 who are Catholic or non-Catholic who attend another school, and maybe including transfer students and children in junior high school, who has newborns, Catholic or non-Catholic, who has children in religious education classes and who are 3 to 5 years old, and then what extracurricular activities do we participate in with children. So this is kind of more of a brainstorming session to think about, going through your own personal contacts and thinking about who would be a good fit for the school, and then making an introduction to them and having them maybe come by and visit the school to check it out. Parent ambassadors can also offer office support where they can help behind the scenes. Not everyone is going to be comfortable being an extrovert and going out and meeting with people and, being very outwardly social to try and get people to attend the school. But they can lend their talents in other areas and help out, which allows your admissions, advancement, marketing people to focus their effort on doing more of the extroverted activities. Parent ambassadors can help with mailings. They can participate in follow-up calls. They can give school tours. They can answer the phone for prospective families, or they can help prepare marketing materials. One way that I was involved as a parent ambassador at my child's high school was they had us personally sign letters that went out to all new families that were being accepted to the school. So as a parent ambassador, I was someone that they could reach out to and talk to if they had any questions with regard to the school that they might not want to ask the official at the school, but they felt more comfortable asking a parent. Another thing that we did at the school was after the open house, we tried to reach out to every family that came to the open house with a personal phone call within 2 days of them coming to the open house. So all the parent ambassadors were distributed a list of names. I was given 10 people to call, and I basically called all 10 people. Many people nowadays will not answer a phone call from a number that they don't recognize. And so I tried to follow it up with a text message right after. And with the text message, received 7, I think, out of 10 responses with that. So text messaging is becoming more popular and acceptable. But I did it with a phone call first and then did a text message follow-up. So that's something just to make it a little more personal, which I think people that I spoke to really appreciated hearing from someone and thought that was a nice touch. So that's something that I would recommend getting parent ambassadors involved in if you have not already. In terms of community canvassing, parent ambassadors can visit locations in the area that attract families where they could access information about the school. This could be parks, libraries, daycare centers, community organizations, real estate offices, local businesses, to include things like Starbucks and McDonald's. And they could maybe put flyers out for the school, brochures, lawn signs, door hangers, things of that nature. And they could also participate and have a presence in community events. There might be in your local communities various fairs and carnivals and things of that nature that are popular in the community. So maybe parent ambassadors could set up a table to help represent the school and promote the school at those big community events. Now, in this particular case, in terms of parent ambassadors serving as mentors, this is something that parent ambassadors can do as well. I have not advocated this as much because I've preferred for our parent ambassadors to be more of the external ambassadors to new families that have not committed to going to the school yet. But parent ambassadors could evolve, and a lot of people have set up separate programs like a mentoring program where They can reach out to new families before the year starts, answer potential questions. They could host a new family welcome event at the school, or they can meet in advance of the school year for children to meet and parents to get acquainted. So at our schools, we have lined up people to do that, but that's mostly people on an internal basis that are serving in those roles. And more so with the parent ambassadors program that I've promoted, it's more kind of an external program where people are reaching out to people that have not committed to going to the school yet. But it could evolve into this and be used to this as well, depending on how many families you have involved at your school. So again, parent ambassadors in a mentor type role could serve as communication liaison between the school, office, and families. And they could also maybe function as parking lot monitors. If they hear gossip out in the parking lot, they can bring it to a school leader, and also act as room parents. So in terms of outreach to local officials, parent ambassadors could also ensure local officials know about your school's value. Many times our local officials might be aware of what's going on in the public schools, but they're not necessarily aware of what's going on in Catholic or private schools. You could invite officials to various events to attend, and you can also keep officials apprised of school happenings and build relationships and develop support. In terms of digital support, which is becoming more and more important, you could have parent ambassadors take photos. You could have them monitor review sites. They could be an online ambassador, and they could forward newsletter and invitations. In terms of follow-up, what I advocate people do for the parent ambassador program is once they have their parent ambassadors signed up, they maybe do follow-up email to them to get them continuously involved in the program. They might create a parent ambassador newsletter. They could set up a discussion board for ideas and sharing between all the parent ambassadors. And they could do a bulletin board for tracking parent ambassador success. So when people have success stories, they can share it, and that might spur on some other ideas from your current parent ambassadors. In terms of incentives and support for why would someone want to become a parent ambassador outside of just the pure goodness of their heart, they might receive volunteer hours for this. We have not gotten to the point yet with all of our schools, but I think it could be a trend coming down the pike where volunteer hours are mandatory, and if you do not put in your volunteer hours, you might have to pay a certain fee in lieu of that. I think we've done it maybe at one or two of our schools, but by and large, most of our schools have not had an issue with volunteers yet. But if you offer volunteer hours for this, that could be something that could be an incentive for people to do it. You could do a family referral program, tuition credit. So for new families that you refer to the school, they might have their registration fee waived for the upcoming year. And that's something that you wait like a semester until the person actually becomes part of the school before you pay out. But that is a nice little incentive for people. You could create t-shirts and special paraphernalia for parents to show that they're parent ambassadors. That might, ask people, cause people to ask questions and say, hey, where'd you get that t-shirt? What's that for? And then that might, cause more people to want to become part of the program. You could also do a parent ambassador appreciation luncheon / dinner, depending on what your time frame and budget is. And you could also have a parent ambassador mass to help celebrate the parent ambassadors in the program. This is something that I put together for one of our schools that talks about beyond academics. It's fairly easy and external to talk about academic programs at each of our schools. But there's a lot of things that people may not see at a particular school, and that would include things like technology. You can talk about your laptop to student ratio. If your schools have Streamlabs, that might be something that you feature. Different clubs and activities that you have, like Student Council, National Junior Honor Society, maybe chorus, musical, functions like band, Odyssey of the Mind. You might have things like robotics, chess club, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, Girls on the Run, various sports programs, before and after care, and then homework hangout, and then different financial aid that might be available. So these are all things that you can have your school. You can kind of go through each individual school and have them put down those things that they want to feature in their school, that they try and promote to families, so that might entice them to draw them in. When you're thinking about telling your story for school, this is just an example of high-level talking points, 3 bullet points that we created for one of our schools, so that people could all kind of be on the same page in terms of the story they tell. So you write out, 3 little paragraphs. You talk about their academic excellence, how they develop the whole child, how their test scores are, and then how students are learning to live their faith through various religion classes and teaching respect of self and others. So these are things that I recommend each school does. Each school is going to be a little different in terms of how they promote themselves, but it's good for a school to kind of go through this exercise and really know their story before they recruit parent ambassadors to try and go out and tell the story for them. And this helps keep people in line with regard to being aligned with the same story that they're all telling when they go out and meet with people. In terms of, I mentioned that creating fast facts. So the little sheet that you see to your right is a little fast fact that we created for St. Joseph up in Athens, Georgia. And this just talks about different things like technology, athletics, accreditation, their faith formation, and it kind of gives little details about each of those features that the school wants to talk about. And so the exercise I recommend that you go through with your own school is, what are your beyond academic features that you want to highlight? What is your story, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunity and threats? And what are your high-level talking points? And so then once you kind of get all that on paper, you can try and develop a fast fact sheet to communicate your story in a nice graphically stimulating way. And it makes sure that everyone is operating on the same page. So how can parent ambassadors help? They can tell all your friends and neighbors about the school. They can like and share social media posts about the school. They can post positive reviews on Yelp, Google, Facebook, and other sites. They can help represent and promote your school at your parish or ministry. They can assist and volunteer at various admission events, possibly lead tours, if that's something that you'd like to get them involved in. They can remain engaged and positive voice about the school. They can make follow-up phone calls to families after open houses, and they can possibly host play dates at the park or welcome breakfast. So these are just kind of a list of potential areas where parent ambassadors could get involved. But in essence, you're really just asking people to be positive about your school and letting them know what your situation is. If your school is completely full right now, maybe the need for a parent ambassador program isn't as great. But as I always like to say, you want to market when you're on top. And so you kind of keep that going with all of your schools. So I think every school could afford to have a parent ambassador program. Those with more difficult enrollment trends, might be more necessary. But I think all schools could benefit from people speaking positively about your school. So in summary, when you think about setting up a parent ambassador program at your own individual school, first steps are to know your story. As I mentioned, what is your story? What are your talking points? What are the key things you want to feature? What are the differentiators? What makes your school different from maybe other schools? You want to select the right ambassadors. So you want to pick people with positive attitudes, heavily involved, know your school well, will represent you well. But the one thing I recommend here, you can invite certain people to become part of the parent ambassador program, but you don't want it to be an exclusive program. You want to make sure that people that want to become parent ambassadors can. So you want to make it inclusive, not exclusive. So when you go to announce the program or the kickoff meeting, You want to invite everyone. So anyone that wants to come can come, but you want to ensure certain people are there that you feel would really represent the school well. So you want to encourage them to be a part of it, but you want to invite everyone. You want to communicate about the program, as I mentioned. So let people know that you're kicking off a parent ambassador program and the next steps in that program. You want to host an impactful kickoff meeting where you provide people with a story that you want them to share. You can talk about the different activities that they can get involved in. You can have signups for various things. And then afterwards, you want to train them. So you want to let them know the different facts about your school, the different things that you want them to share in the community, and you want them to be well educated. You want to connect with them frequently. You don't want to launch a program and then all of a sudden, they don't hear from you for the next 3 or 4 months. You want to kind of keep the momentum going. So once you launch it, you want to keep people busy, and those that want to get more involved and keep raising their hand to do things, keep giving them activities to do. You want to keep them updated about various issues or initiatives that are going on at school so that they remain current. And then essentially what you want to do is you want to have them help you build your pipeline. So people that are interested in your school, you want them to continually promote and introduce your school to new families. So that, my friends, is a quick summary of what a parent ambassador program is all about. Here is my contact information, just in case you want to stay in touch and reach out afterwards, or if you ever have any questions down the road. You may not have any now. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn. But here's my email address and my cell phone. So feel free to jot that down. And if I can help you in any way with my insights or experience, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'll open the floor to questions. Does anyone have any questions for Brian? You can either type it in or just chime in.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Joseph.
Hello, Joseph. We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Brian. This is absolutely timely, given all the conversations we've been having up to this point, and the fact that you really laid it out properly for us. It's not much of execution. Again, I want to appreciate it. I just want to make a comment to that. Sometimes, seeing all the pieces come together and the way that you've broken up each and every different aspect of it, it's very, very helpful for us moving forward. So that is how the roadmap. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. The one thing that I will say also is a lot of people, when I kind of talk about the parent ambassador program or launching one, kind of become paralyzed because they feel, that's a lot of things to do. I don't know, if we're up to that task at this point. I would just say start somewhere, like just get going, even if it's 1 or 2 things that you do, just go ahead and try and get it started. And, if you only start with, 3 or 4 families, start with 3 or 4 families, but get it going. I saw in a webinar a couple weeks ago, I thought was a great quote: "Do not let perfect be the enemy of good." A lot of people are waiting, to be perfect and want to have everything just right. And I recommend, just keep moving forward and doing what you can to try and get the program launched. And, you'll figure it out as you go along, and you might adapt it. But do the best you can. And, worst case scenario, people are out promoting your school.
Thank you, Brian. I got a question from Janice. Janice, do you mind expanding on what your question is about? Can Bonbon parental bad members be used effectively for this project? Janice, are you there? Let me see if I can unmute her.
There I am.
Oh,
Hi. Sorry, bad typing. I wanted to know about non-parental board members. In our diocese, we are required to have board members who are not parents, who are interested members of the community. Can we be used in this program?
I think anyone can be using the program, that as long as they know about your school. So
Board member, we better.
yeah, I would hope that a board member would know about your school, but
Yes.
you know, the important, you know, anyone can be promoting your school and be a, you know, an ambassador. As long as you educate them and, you know, they're aligned with, you know, kind of the facts about your school and are knowledgeable, which I would assume a board member would be, they should be great advocates for your school.
Thank you.